Welcome back to the Arise interview, where we speak to the newsmakers as well as ordinary people doing extraordinary things around the world and featuring the voices at the heart of the stories. I'm Charles Aniegolu. Now, one silver lining of lockdown is that it's brought talk of food into the general conversation. And what is becoming increasingly evident is the role of food, not just for the sustenance of life and to meet the basic needs of our bodies, but also as a social activity. Just ask the millions who've been having withdrawal symptoms, unable to visit restaurants because of lockdown restrictions. It's also becoming increasingly evident that food can play a role in warding off depression and anxiety. Well, my next guest is Henry Ilamah, an international consultant chef who is helping many people to boost their lockdown mood by cooking. Through him, they've discovered that cooking can give a sense of control and help alleviate stress. Mr. Ilamah is unusual because he actually studied painting, but his grandmother taught him to cook at a young age, and ever since he's developed that passion into a successful profession that's helped him create a range of dishes and recipes that are much sought after both in Europe and in Africa. And Henry Ilamah joins me now in the studio here in Abuja. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you, Charles.
We're going to talk about what you prescribe, in terms of food and all that for this period. But of course, all of us living through the extraordinary period of COVID-19, what impact has it had on you and your food business?
The lockdown has been very interesting, actually. It got to a point where, as a chef, I became more creative in terms of actually using locally grown material to produce excellent food. Now, that was when I discovered the farms all over Nigeria that grow everything from grape to basilica to all kinds of vegetables, and organic for that matter.
Before that, where were you getting your products?
Mostly from supermarkets.
Right, okay.
And those guys used to import from France.
Right.
But now I get them locally from farms existing in Nigeria, which is one part of the lockdown. And
so would you say that's been more positive for your business?
more positive for my business, and actually the farms have been showcased by my food.
Right.
Because most people never knew they existed, like a farm in Port Harcourt, GRA, that has everything, has everything there, right? There's one in Kaduna. There's some in Lagos. There's a fish farm at the border of Ogun State. I cooked out of there. So you just discover that you have everything. It's just applying ourselves in terms of growing organic food instead of importing anything.
And of course, organic food is the way to go, isn't it?
Organic food is medicine. It's the medicine for your body, really, because what you're eating is, you don't use pesticides, nothing to grow them, and natural manure. It's amazing what we have. And it's actually brought, the lockdown has brought food as a communal tool, right, to interact with people, because most people are locked in their houses. So you form the community. I get followers, 10, 15,000 followers following me every day. People send me messages, ask questions, where can I get this, where can I get that? So it just at least alleviated.
So it's created a social sort of thing, their community. I mean, so how do you actually, you don't own a restaurant, do you? So all your stuff, what you do is that you cook food, you put it on the internet, or you advise restaurants and things like that about what to do. Tell us a bit about that.
Right. What happens is that every day I produce a meal, whatever, like you do.
Yes, I've seen lots of photos.
Yes.
So I have to say, it's not a good idea to send it to me when I'm hungry, because most of them just look just desperately appetizing.
Right. So I create food, then I do the pictures, then I post them. Now, it got the attention of restaurants and stuff. So what I do as a consultant chef is I come into your kitchen, from the equipment down to whatever, I advise you on that, because these days everything is healthy. So you don't fry as much, you grill more, a lot of salad, a lot of vegetables. So I consult for hotels end to end. I set up your kitchen, get your staff in, train them, do recipe, patent my recipe, and work to the next project. That's what I do.
I've seen a range of dishes. I'm talking about hundreds of dishes. Over the last few months, which is one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you. I've seen so much of your stuff online in the UK, here in Nigeria. I mean, do you just go into the kitchen and start messing about with ingredients and preparing things, or do you have something already thought through in mind when you go in, you know, to prepare that dish? In other words, do you say, right, okay, I'm going to make something with, you know, whatever, fish, beef, blah, 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 and then you kind of think of the things that are going to go with it.
What happens normally is that I go to the shops every day in Lagos. So I look at what they have, the fruit and veg section, and the veg markets. I just look things interesting about them, keep them in the fridge. So sometimes I do series. You know, we had the farmhouse series, which was on a farm in Port Harcourt.
Right.
After that, I started the seafood series, which was going to the law school, fish market, and stuff like that. So that whole week, it was seafood. So I just, whatever I have, I create something with it. What is in the kitchen, in the cupboard, just create.
And does food help boost your mood? I mean, especially during lockdown, because it's quite therapeutic.
Yeah, it is, because one, it's a whole process. I create the food, I take the pictures. So to achieve one picture I post, I take 45 pictures to get the greatest light on it. Edit it, then I post it. What happens then is that people start calling me and say, how do you get this done? Advice. So, but I say to them that, listen, my recipe book online is coming up before December, so you can get all the recipes from there. So that's generally.
Yes, that would be interesting. I mean, to be honest with you, I actually like to cook a lot, which is one of the reasons I'm interested. I mean, in you know, when I'm in my home,
of course,
I tend to do a lot of cooking. I find it very creative, and I think people who are in the creative business. And I was just going to say that for somebody like you who's actually a painter. The art of cooking must satify that craving for creativity, as well as the photographs that you take.
Because if you look at my food, it has colors.
Yes, it's a brilliant. I mean, the photography, I have to say,
it's like a palette.
Is brilliant. Yeah, I mean, we're looking at some of the shots there now.
It's like a palette. So I have a white canvas, then I create the food on it.
Right.
You understand? And I go healthy, like this. I mean, everything I do is healthy.
Yeah, I was actually hoping to see the still pictures, which are some of the ones that are really so good. You see what I mean, like that, for example.
That's the seafood broth, crabs from Lagos. I mean, this is from Lagos.
Right, and of course that brings me to one question I was going to ask you, which is these days we're getting more and more science backing up what's been previously brushed off. And suggested, you know, they're now suggesting through clinical trials that diet is a foundation for mental health. And of course, we all know that with lockdown, mental health is a problem. Brain health is a problem, beyond food just being good for our bodies. I mean, does any of that form part of your consulting work as a chef?
It does. It does, because if you look at people, if you talk to people, if they reach out to you, especially when you're social media, they talk about food. Some are depressed. By the time you talk to them, you bring them out with their depression. Some people actually call me and said to them, what do you want to eat? Can I have a recipe? I said, no. What do you have in your cupboard? So I'll take you through what to do. And it elevates them. Some people send me pictures and say, look, I've just tried what you made. So I get pictures from people saying, I'm going to try this.
That's very interesting.
They go ahead and try it, and they post the picture and say, what do you think? I say, that's nice, that's a good try, because it's something
because you never actually get to taste it, so you have no idea whether what they put together looks pretty but tastes awful.
Exactly. So you get that. It helps. It really helps.
Many people in the hospitality industry are worried about the future in the wake of the coronavirus pandemic. Are you worried or optimistic?
Very optimistic.
What's the basis for that optimism?
I'll tell you why. You see, the lockdown has brought us back to what do we have on the ground. And Charles, if you remember when we were growing up, our grandmothers used to plant ugu behind the house. They never went to the market to buy vegetables, did they? We used to have chickens we reared at home. We used to have rams. Like, I mean, in the last 30 years, nobody does that anymore. You understand? Now, everybody's going back to actually growing stuff. That means we spend less FX in importing food. And if we can do that, then we can boost the economy, because you can start a farm, just like an allotment plot. You can do your gardening there. You can use some for food and excess you sell. So I'm quite optimistic. And a lot of people that cook in Nigeria are getting more creative, actually. what they have. So we are now using local ingredients to be more creative instead of importing steak from South Africa. You can tender your meat here. You don't have to import. If you grow them differently, you get different results. Like I make cheese from goat milk. So, and it's all here. Why do you have to import that?
That's extraordinary. Now, tell me this: why is it? I mean, you lived in England for many years. I mean, why is it that in most homes, both in the UK, in Africa, and so on, people associate food with women? I mean, it's your mother's cooking, it's your sister's cooking, it's the females in the house. I mean, but when it comes to the professional side, chefs in restaurants or hotels all over the world, it's always the men.
I think, being a chef is a labor of love, really. And the hours are hard. I mean, you wake up, for example, I start cooking, I wake up at 5 a.m. every day. By 9 a.m. I finish cooking, I start taking pictures before 12 noon.
Right.
So that the sunlight doesn't affect the pictures I take. But the idea is that it has to be love. You have to love that work to do it. And so, I mean, you do 18, 20 hours a day.
Yeah, but are you saying women don't love the work? I don't know. Because what I'm saying is that some of the best known chefs, I mean, if you go to the UK for Jamie Oliver and all the rest of them, they're all men. I mean, the Michelin-starred restaurants are all men. The chefs who run them are men. I mean, even in the hotel, the Hilton, I mean, if you go to the kitchen, you'll find that a lot of the chefs are men.
I don't know. I don't know. Maybe women just really don't fancy that kind of work. And the hours are really long, really. Real long hours.
Yes.
It's women, you're going to be a mother, you're going to be somebody's daughter or whatever. They have other things, you can't. They're very good lawyers, women. Women are fantastic at many things they do, but maybe they just don't like theirs.
And when you experiment, because I imagine that, because I mean your recipes are original.
Yeah.
Therefore, it means that there's a lot of experimentation.
Yep.
And then you come up with something.
Yeah.
And when you experiment and you suddenly find you've come up with a great new dish, do you write down the recipe as you go along, or do you sometimes find that you've actually forgotten how you came to make that dish?
No. The thing is that with technology today, right, I do a video of everything I do, all the ingredients.
Right. So you're saying, okay, I'm going to put a dash of thyme in it, therefore I'm going to take a video of the time. Right.
So when you're cooking, you have a station, so I line up all my ingredients here.
Right, okay. So
everything chopped, so I remember them. And you write them down as well.
So basically you line up everything, but obviously you're not going to use everything.
No, you sometimes you do, sometimes you don't.
Right.
Yeah, depends what you're doing.
But in terms of the combination, because I think what makes a dish, I mean, looking at that dish, God, I'd like to eat that.
Yeah.
I mean, but when you look at the combination of things that you've got to put together to make a dish work, do you sort of pick, think, okay, because you know the taste of thyme, you know the taste of rosemary, you know the taste of, basil and things like that. Okay, I'm going to use basil because I want to achieve this
taste. Yeah, you do, because what happens is, don't forget, cooking is like being a painter. It's an art.
Right.
And there's certain basic principles that you already have in your head.
Right.
What goes with seafood, the kind of wine that goes with seafood, obviously,
yes,
red meat and stuff like that. So same thing with food. There are things that don't go together at all. Do you understand what I'm saying? You can't use, for example, a seafood dish.
Right.
I mean, really, you use a red wine, a nice Chardonnay with some butter. That's it. With a bit of kosher salt, you're done. You can achieve that result with that. You understand?
Sure.
But you can't use that same combination for meat.
Okay, well, look, let me ask you to just hold your thoughts. We're going to come back to you. You're watching the Arise interview. Plenty more still ahead as we continue our chat with the international consultant chef, Henry Ilamah. Stay with us. Welcome back to the Arise interview. I'm Charles Aniagolu. Now, my guest is Henry Ilamah, whose name has come to be associated with the food business in the UK and Nigeria. He's a successful international consultant chef who trained as a painter but gave up that job, or at least sidelined that calling, to dedicate himself to African and international cuisine. His mission is to introduce as many people as possible to his passion for cooking and coming up with brilliant recipes, all healthy, well, mostly healthy, to help people get through the challenges, anxiety and depression of lockdown. Beyond this, of course, he's become someone to talk to if you're thinking of starting a restaurant or a bar or even a hotel and are a bit unsure of what sort of recipe to offer to your clients. And Henry Ilamah is still with me in the studio. Thank you for staying with us. And we're talking just during the break about, I was saying that I find that, I prefer African cooked meals from all over the world. In other words, I'd rather eat a European dish in Nigeria than in Europe.
Yep.
Because the way that it's cooked seems to cater more to the palate of the African.
The difference, right, is that if Michelin-star chefs actually don't cook. If you walk into a five-star restaurant, if you look at the table, there's olive oil, there's Tabasco, there's black pepper, there's everything else that you need to put in food to make it tasty is on the table, so your food comes bland. So you finish the cooking.
Yes,
That's what happens.
Yeah, of course.
While here, the food is cooked for you. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, I'm always astonished because, for example, not long ago I went to the Shard. The Shard.
Yeah.
Some of the best restaurants in Europe. And you spend, absolute. And then you turn around thinking,
did I really spend that money on this?
And you feel like you want to stop along the way at the local Nigerian Buka restaurant
and buy something to take home.
Yeah,
I know what you mean. It's interesting because with food in Nigeria, like I said, Charles, I'm doing another series as we were talking about during the break. We have about 15 to 20 types of grilled meat in Nigeria. The one that they do in Maiduguri is different from the one that comes from Yola. The one they do in Bauchi is something called tukunya, is the chicken cooked in the earth. You dig a ground and put a chicken inside and cover it and cook it.
That's extraordinary.
Exactly. So you have the one from Yola, you have the one from Kano. So they're different types. So I'm doing a series, traveling around these places, capturing the local way, and reproduce that in my kitchen. But
that's an important work that you're doing. And the reason I say that, apart from the fact that you're documenting things that have not been documented, you lived in London for a long time, other parts of Britain, but despite the large number of Africans living in the UK, which is probably why your recipe book is going to be very important. The continent's cuisine, the African continent's cuisine, does not seem to have caught on in Britain, like maybe Chinese or Indian food. You hear the average Englishman who's never traveled out of England saying, I'm going out for a curry.
Yeah.
Why is that?
The reason is the way we present our food. If you look at my food, it's all local. It's the way you present it. You see, you first eat with your eyes before you taste the food. And that's where you see the five-star Michelin chefs, when the plating, a plating course takes 2 years to plate food. So what happens here is that if it looks good, then we eat it. From the eyes, you eat with your eyes first.
Well, looking at some of the pictures
exactly.
of your food there.
You eat with your eyes first, then before you taste the food. So that's how you sell food. So we have not, our chefs in the UK have not made our food look desirable to anybody else. But if they do that, but that's part of what I'm doing today. Most of the chefs that follow me on Instagram, they're English chefs.
But it's actually very interesting because when I look at your pictures online, at first when I saw them, and I was very impressed, but I just kept thinking that your dishes, your recipes aren't uniquely African, but are sort of a mixture of international stuff.
Eclectic food.
Yeah, eclectic.
But we have all the ingredients grown here. I didn't need to go anywhere to get the ingredients at all. Everything is here. So we can do that. That means our food can be international if we want it to be. So that's what I'm pushing today. That's why you see, I mean, my followers are, most of the followers are Europeans that follow me on Instagram. They're chefs as well. But they're beginning to realize, some ask me to send them extra pictures. So that's the way, and everything is done here. Everything is grown here, actually.
And of course, a lot of people have turned to cooking during this lockdown, I mean, all around the world, and interest in recipes has gone up considerably, hasn't it? I mean, there's lots of talk about the perfect lockdown recipe. Do you have one perfect lockdown recipe?
Yes.
Of your own?
Yes.
What would that be?
It would be roast beef on a carrot puree.
Okay.
It's warm. Sometimes it's cold. The weather is a bit cold now, so that's amazing. And it's local beef. It's our beef. You roast it properly, nicely spiced.
Yeah, but what makes it a lockdown recipe?
It's amazing. It's refreshing. It's very fresh. It doesn't take a long time to make. It doesn't. So if you have roast beef from 2 nights ago, you can use it and puree the carrot and put on top of it with some vegetables. Fantastic.
So when you say puree the carrot, is it fresh carrot or cooked carrot?
You cook fresh cooked carrots.
Right. Okay.
Then you puree it. Puree it with a bit of water, kosher salt, olive oil.
Yeah, but you see, everybody thinks these days of food that's accompanied by green vegetables. I mean, that's not green, is it? I mean,
that's not green, but that's a vegetable.
Although it is a vegetable, yes,
exactly.
it is. Yeah,
so you're eating more of the puree than the beef.
Right.
But you can do the same thing and have prawns, grilled prawns on it.
Right.
So that's my lockdown food.
And do you spice it up? I mean,
of course you have to.
I mean the carrot. Is it just the carrot, or do you add sort of spices?
Of course you do spices. Black pepper, kosher salt.
Right.
Yeah.
And is there something you should cook or not cook during lockdown?
You can cook. It's the best time to cook anything.
Right, because you can take as much
time as you want. You're really not going anywhere. Really, think about it. I mean, at 10 o'clock, the lockdown used to be 7. So really, you're not going anywhere.
But you know, people like you are in a unique position to sell Nigerian food to the world. To sell it, you were talking about presentation. To present it in such a way that makes it palatable. I mean, in Europe, for example, most people don't eat goat meat. You know what I mean? They don't think. I mean, they eat lamb. But nobody eats goat.
Well, it depends on the way you make it.
Yeah, I mean, so I mean, I'm just wondering why that sort of thing, you know, why people don't sort of like goat, for example.
It's because, look,
it's got a strong taste.
Yeah, it's got a strong taste. But if you skin the goat, if you hang it properly, we don't get that smell out of it. That's the difference.
Right.
So then when you prepare, it depends on. I mean, we have the same spices. The curry leaves. Here, they use curry in the UK. Everything is grown here. So you're using the same spices.
Right.
So you can achieve the Michelin-style goat meat soup.
Well, let's not dwell too much on murdering a goat for our sort of for our pleasure. You know, because I mean, there are a lot of people around the world who would be cringing right now, thinking, "Oh my God, that poor goat."
So it's
But it's fascinating. I mean, we were talking also during the break about some of those. I mean, some of the most popular shows on television globally now in the UK and the rest of the world are food related. I mean, programs like Master Chef, Jamie Oliver specials, etc. I mean, have you thought of getting onto those shows and really testing yourself and your cooking in competition with others?
It's an interesting question. I'll tell you what.
I mean, you watch those programs.
I was speaking to, there's a chef in the UK which I actually work with. We do shows. I'm saying we create the Food Network Africa. Let's own it, not go on their show.
Yeah, but if you go on a show that is international and mainstream, then not only are you advertising the work that you're doing, you're increasing the audience and the potential for them to be interested in watching your African channel.
Exactly. But what you should remember, this is 2020. Everything is about communication today. So we can still achieve that, right? Because what happens is that if you post, people share your post, people see Nigerian food. We can achieve that without having to go onto their network. I can tell you that for free.
Well, Henry, I've got to say it's been fascinating talking with you.
Charles.
Absolutely brilliant. And now I'm hungry. I want to go eat. Henry Ilamah is an international consultant chef. And Thank you once again.
Thank you.
That's it for this edition of the Arise interview. Do join us again tomorrow from me and the entire team here in Abuja and Lagos. Bye-bye, and thank you for watching.